Get this meeting started this morning. I'm Chairman Stan Jones, and I call this meeting into order. This morning, as we start off, we've got some guests and some people in the audience that I want to recognize this morning and that we're happy to have. We have several members of our House here and the Speaker of the House. And guys, I just tell you, we're honored to have y'all here. We're happy to have you here. When we go to a place like this, and you guys from being really close around here, it means a lot to us for y'all to come here, as I know it does for us to come to your hometown. You know, we're my first time to ever be in El Dorado, and I was anxious about coming, and gosh, it's such a clean town. It's just been, the buildings have been styled up. Everything looks great. It's clean, and the food has been great. The people have been friendly, and we've really enjoyed being here. So a lot of that goes to y'all for what y'all have done. It goes to the mayor. It goes for the people of El Dorado, the pride you have in your town, and we're very happy about that. This morning, to get things started, Speaker of the House, Matthew Shepard, I would like for you, if you will, stand up and say a few words and give us your hometown welcome.
Yeah. Well, I want to welcome Stan and the rest of the commission in Austin and all of our guests to El Dorado. This is my hometown. It's where I was born and raised, and proud to represent El Dorado. I've represented El Dorado and this part of South Arkansas for 14 years in the Arkansas House of Representatives, and the last 6 years as Speaker of the House. I don't think I realized last week that y'all were going to be here this week, but it's kind of interesting that there's been two groups that have gotten a lot of press the last couple of weeks. It's been the Game and Fish Commission and the Arkansas House of Representatives. And, you know, I've had to give a few interviews, and the press has been asking about the Game and Fish appropriation. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to get something done. I anticipate a special session prior to the end of the fiscal year, and I'm very confident that myself and my colleagues in the House that will be able to work with the Senate and the Governor's office to take care of getting a reasonable appropriation passed for the Game and Fish Commission. But really appreciate what the commission does. I know that hunting and fishing and the outdoors are very important to Arkansas. It's very important to South Arkansas. Any of us that have been elected to the state legislature know that a lot of the calls we get are going to be questions about hunting and fishing and outdoors, and really appreciate so many folks that have been responsive. Austin has always been very good to respond to any questions that I or my constituents may have. JD as well, being the commissioner down here in our area, always is available to answer any calls that we may have. But today, I just want to welcome you to El Dorado. We're very proud of our community. One of the things I think that really sets El Dorado apart and Union County is just there's very much a can-do attitude, that we try to come together to address issues that we may see. Don Miller is here from Murphy USA, and I think you're going to hear from him in a little bit. But unquestionably, we have great corporate citizens in Murphy USA, Murphy Oil, previously as well, and of course the Murphy family has done so much. We've got the Murphy Arts District. We now have Mystic Creek Golf Club, which is one of the top golf courses in the nation, and I could go on and on and on. I could talk about El Dorado all day long, but needless to say, very happy that y'all are here. I feel like this has been a big 24 hours in El Dorado, because we had Coach Calipari here last night, and then the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. So this is a big deal for El Dorado. We thank you for what y'all do for the state of Arkansas.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Jeff Wardlaw, Representative, would you stand and say a few words?
Thanks, Stan. I don't want to outdo my speaker, but I will say that it's good to be back in Arkansas, and I've been out of town for 2 weeks, so I missed all the fanfare and the fireworks, but look forward to jumping back into it. I can't tell y'all how much I appreciate y'all being in South Arkansas. It means a lot, being that this is my home. Thank you guys for everything you do, the jobs you do. I know that you guys are the face, but these guys are the legs, and they do a yeoman's work. Luke, you guys do awesome. Brad's in the room, and I can't believe that his kid finally turned 6, so he could get in on the youth hunt. But But I do want to say thank you guys, and we'll get the appropriation passed. I have no quarrels about it, so thank y'all.
Thank you. Representative Howard Beatty, we're glad that you're here today. Would you say a few words?
I'll say just a few words. One, I want to say thanks for having this in South Arkansas. I hope that you have been impressed by El Dorado and what South Arkansas can offer. It's a perfect example when you have strong corporate citizens that choose to reinvest their money back in their community to make it better. It's a shining star in South Arkansas. I want to tell you that to echo what the speaker said and what Jeff said about the appropriation in the budget, I'm confident that we'll get this handled and take care of Game and Fish. I know we've all received numerous calls from employees of Game and Fish, vendors that do business with Game and Fish, and concerns. And it's a constant conversation right now among House members. I want to say my comments to them, I'll say publicly, everything that I've asked of Austin and the commission, y'all taken care of. So what I'm going to encourage today is that those conversations and open dialogue between you as commissioners and House members, that you do more of that. I think the more one-on-one conversations that you can have with House members, the stronger that relationship will be, and the better process going on in the future. I'll just echo what Jeff said. We will get this done, and it'll be something that all of us can be happy about. And I thank you for being down here. Anytime you can get in South Arkansas, I encourage you to be impressed by the folks down here. Thank y'all.
We have been. We've enjoyed it. Representative Wade Andrews, please say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. I'll keep it brief. I think my colleagues have said just about everything there is to say. But yeah, welcome to South Arkansas. I'm from Camden, so just a quick 45-minute drive down here. I'm fortunate to have one of my constituents, Mr. Neely, here. I think we live about 10 minutes apart from each other, and it's always good to have the commissioner as your constituent. Good to hear someone talk to you on the commission. Game Fish Commission does great work. I've grown up hunting and fishing my whole life. Spent most of my childhood outdoors, and I know how important it is for Arkansas, for our outdoor economy. Hunting and fishing season is a big revenue booster for us. Commission does great work on education, on conservation, on everything. And as my colleague said, we're getting the appropriation passed. Just got to twist a few arms for some honored folks. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wade. Appreciate it. Hey, we have some other guests in the audience this morning, and since we're recognizing guests, I think I want to just go ahead and recognize these guests while we're here. Paul Schultz, where are you at, Paul? Mayor of El Dorado, would you like to come up and just give you a chance to say a few words as well? Not everybody's the mayor of the town.
You would think they were. Last night, Razorback, and the comment was made about all the advice the coaches get. Guess what? It doesn't change at my level either. I've always got this little point of trivia, and Matthew and I play this game, but my wife taught him 7th grade math and instilled upon him the love of math, and his parents have a little bit to do with that too. He's got the other side of the story. I'm thrilled to death that you're here. And I'm glad you visited my deer camp yesterday. I understand you went to Morro Big Pine. Once you cross that gravel road to the west, that's where you find me. I love it. I moved down here 50 years ago. You couldn't blow me out of this place with dynamite. And you being here means a lot to me personally, as well as the people of this community. We're the largest land mass county in the state. We've got huge deer population here. We've got sportsmen everywhere. And I can tell you one thing about them, they love what they do, and you make so much of that available to them. So keep up the good work. We're just glad you're here. We're glad to have a turnout like this in our community. You know, you may not realize this, but the economic piece of this is really good for my community as well. So come back anytime you want to. And if you need me, I'm in that big pointy building over on West Avenue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Next, I want to recognize some guests that we have this morning. Sherry Jones. Sherry, where are you at? There you are. Stephen Kelly is a guest that's here. Lane Stevens spoke yesterday. Jan Zimmerman. Where you at, Jan? I can't see. There you are. Don Miller. Don's going to speak here in just a few minutes. Kristen Booth. Did you sing last night? You're the girl that had that pretty voice. She sang beautiful last night. John House. There you are, John. Bill Talbot. Bill Talbot here. There you are. And I think a retiree, Lauren Rogers. Glad to have you, Lauren. Glad to have you. Did I miss anybody? Is there a guest here that I missed that name is not on here? All right. I think at this time that we've got a couple of people that's going to speak, and Stephen Kelly, I'm going to ask you to come up. And Stephen is a local guy that lives here. Stand by. Pledge of allegiance. We want to do that? We usually get our guest speakers done. We can do that. All right, we're going to do the prayer and the pledge of allegiance, and then we're going to have you speak. So let me ask the chaplain, George, yes, to come up and lead us in prayer, and then we'll do the pledge of allegiance.
Let me just say this is Law Enforcement Week, and I want to, first of all, remember our fallen officers, their sacrifice of giving their life for others. There's a passage in the Bible that says, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. And then also I want to remember our current law enforcement agencies and appreciate them, appreciate their dedication. And as a citizen of this great country, I want to say thank you for your service. Let's pray. Father, we do love you. We do thank you so much for being good to us and bringing us all here safely as you did this morning. We're grateful, Lord, that we're a part of a organization
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, now, Stephen Kelly is from this area and has a business here and has dug in and been here for a while, and this is your life. And tell us some good things about El Dorado.
Absolutely. Well, when I first was asked by Stan to come up here today, just thinking about what an honor it is to be here, how exciting it is, but then I was thinking this morning, I got to call Stan and tell him I can't do this. Because I realized he was trying to trick me. He was trying to find out all these great secrets about South Arkansas that many of you don't know. See, some of the things you may not know about this is when you're from South Arkansas, you get your GPS and you log every fishing hole and you log every turkey track, and everybody knows in South Arkansas about the wildlife, but we don't tell people about it. So it's this little hidden gem. So you got me, and we'll share some of that today. But it's exciting to be from this area. And we have what I would consider one of the greatest opportunities here in South Arkansas. I was raised about 20 miles north of here, a little town called Frenchport. and little community. Most of you will never hear of that, but there's some great places there too. You know, when I'm growing up, I grew up in a blue-collar family that, you know, my dad was a sheet metalist and a roofer and spent 30 years working hard. And you're going to find that here in South Arkansas. There's a lot of hardworking people. There's a lot of culture here that's different than anywhere else, and that's part of what makes it special. You know, your upbringing in South Arkansas. I was talking to Jan this morning, and she said, "My goodness, look at all the big churches. Must be a lot of sinners around here." You know, and that's probably true. You know, we all come short. But that's who we are as people around South Arkansas. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about our culture, talking about the people, talking about our roots. So I grew up here, spent the first 20 years of my life here, went to college in Southern Arkansas. You know, and I'll never forget those first early days when my dad would take me hunting, and first deer ever killed. Back in those days, we didn't have the deer population we do today. I'm not sure all of you know this, but Union County, Ouachita County, we have the largest deer population in all of Arkansas. So a lot of people come in here. I think we have more harvested deer in these counties than anywhere else in the state. It's pretty exciting to be a part of that. Back in the days when I was a kid, first deer ever killed, it was a buck. You know, and you didn't see those. So, you know, mid-90s, whenever it was, put in these rules to where harvest bigger deer. And everybody was doubters in South Arkansas. No, we don't have deer as it is. So for you guys to look forward and see what we didn't know back then helped us tremendously. That first buck I killed was actually a towhead. To be honest, you had to get up there and rub the hair off of it, and just you could make the horn show. That deer's still on my wall in my shop now. It's not mounted, the whole head or anything, but you know that's who we are. That's how we were raised. We'd go down to places, Lake Erland, which is next to one of our WMAs. We'd yo-yo, we'd crappie fish, some of the best fishing in the state is down here. Spent a lot of time as a kid. We didn't have campers, we had tents. And we'd go to some of the campgrounds across the state, up near Lake Ouachita. Spend a week there every year. You know, those of you who don't know this, Lake Ouachita is an absolutely amazing striper fishing place. We take customers from all over the U.S. up there, and they have the absolute best time. I'm talking about better than Venice, better than Venice, Louisiana, better than bass fishing in Mexico. I've been pretty blessed in my life to be able to travel and do a lot of things in other countries and in other parts of the U.S., and I can tell you it's absolutely phenomenal what we have here. So we don't tell people about it all the time, but Stan wanted us to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it. But it's a hidden gem. You guys have no clue how ingrained that is for us. So, you know, with all the churches, it makes sense that as a kid you grow up and you go to church on Sunday, and then you go Sunday night, you go Wednesday night, and that's how I was raised as well. But you know, I spent 20 years not really understanding and appreciating what we have here. So I spent 20 years trying to get away, you could say. And then the next 20 years of my life, I've been blessed with an education that was great, been blessed with a lot of opportunities. The good Lord has taken care of me, and I've been able to move around, spend time in East Texas, a lot of time in South Louisiana, spent 5 years in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm sure some of you can realize why I want to get away from Memphis, but to make it back here. But when you spend the next 20 years trying to get back to your roots, the things that you grew up with, the things that were absolutely amazing about this community. So, you know, I've been a lot of places, but there's no place other than South Arkansas that means so much to me. So we had the opportunity, you know, call it 3 or 4 years ago, with my company, Polyethylene Containers. We're located just east of here in the industrial district, and we've been very blessed. We originally acquired that company better than a decade ago. We had 9 employees. And we as a company had a vision to take this and make something better. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we both my partner and I, Mr. Great Man, Walter Tyson, we came together and decided, let's do something for South Arkansas. Let's do it with the people that we know, the people that are amazing and brought jobs back to this area. So we've been pretty blessed. We moved businesses in from Dallas, from Erie, Pennsylvania, and Orlando, Florida, and relocated that here in Arkansas. Today, I'm very proud. We have 140 some odd employees, so been very blessed. COVID has been good to us, and what all makes it happen is the people. Without people, we can have machinery all day long, but without the people, and specifically these South Arkansas people that work so hard and have a good upbringing. People just want to work and do a good job, go home to their families, enjoy the outdoors. It's been a great blessing to be back here now for the last 3 or 4 years and back to my roots. But there's so many amazing places. One of which you guys may not know. It's just north of Beryl Anthony, WMA, Felsenthal. I would argue with Stan that it is probably the best duck hunting place in the world. Everybody knows that Arkansas is the duck hunting capital of the world. There were times in the 90s when anybody could go out there with probably a BB gun and get the limit. It was absolutely phenomenal. It's a great place. There's a lot of issues with that. Things that, now I'm not smart enough to tell you guys how to do things or make recommendations, but that place was absolutely great. Our river levels are higher. We don't have the grass to grow when they drain the waters in summer like they used to, so it stays pretty flooded a lot of times now. So we don't have quite the duck population. We got a lot of people who get out there and race and beat each other over the head to try to get their spot. And if you don't, they'll show up next to you. It's probably a few fights a year about that kind of stuff. But, we have some amazing places around here, some of which I've touched on. I'm not going to tell you about my personal little honeycomb up here at Poison Springs Wildlife Management Area, but it's a cool area. We spent a lot of time on the property. My property is right next to theirs, so get to experience that too. But big picture, the good Lord, in my opinion, everybody believes in the Bible. There's 3 things in the Bible that He didn't tell us. Okay? First one, He didn't tell us exactly where heaven is, but everybody, even as a kid, knows that heaven's up here. And hell, He didn't tell us exactly where that's at, but everybody as a kid knows it's down here. The third thing is, He didn't tell us about where God's country is, but I'm going to tell you it's right here in South Arkansas. So, appreciate the time. There's a lot of great activities. I know you guys got to see some of those this week. Invite you down to experience more. If there's anything I can do or questions that I can help you with, just let me know.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. We have another speaker this morning, Don Miller. Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about El Dorado. I've been very fortunate, my family's been fortunate to call El Dorado home for the last 20 years. I work for Murphy USA and lead their Community Relations Philanthropy Services Group. And I also have the privilege of being the chairman of the City of El Dorado Advertising and Promotions Commission. So I like to talk about El Dorado, and I've got a few notes to make sure that I don't leave anything out, and I don't want to go too long, obviously, but just a little bit of a history lesson for those of you who are not familiar with El Dorado. From very humble beginnings as kind of a small timber-based outpost, as the country was moving west to the oil boom of the 1920s that really put El Dorado on the map to today, where El Dorado and South Arkansas are home to, I'm very proud to say, Fortune 250 company, Murphy USA, who operates in 27 different states across this great country and employs better than 16,000 employees. And our headquarters is just a block north of where we're sitting today. As Matthew had mentioned, the Murphy family businesses have made a huge impact on South Arkansas and El Dorado. In 2007, the Murphy Oil Corporation established the El Dorado Promise. So when you think about El Dorado, we are the economic engine, we're the educational hub, and we're the cultural center of South Arkansas. So from an education perspective, the establishment of the El Dorado Promise by Murphy Oil in 2007 essentially provided every graduate of El Dorado District Schools, El Dorado High School, an opportunity to go on to college through a scholarship program that would cover their basic tuition and fees. And this scholarship was available to any graduating high school student in El Dorado, regardless of their economic situation or their academic success. So it was really a way for young people and graduates to have an opportunity to go and further their education in college. And some of the results of that have been that since the establishment of the Promise, better than 84% of all El Dorado high school students have gone on to college. When you compare that to the current stats for all of the state of Arkansas seniors, about 50% of them go on to college. And nationally, about 65% go on to college. We're also blessed in El Dorado and South Arkansas to have South Arkansas College here in El Dorado, just south of us. And as Stephen had mentioned, Southern Arkansas University, just a few minutes away in Magnolia. So from an education perspective, El Dorado brings a lot to the table for our community and helps us build a future that's going to be very, very bright. Talking about some of the other economic engines, South Arkansas and El Dorado are blessed with natural resources. It's been part of our history and it will continue to be part of our future. And that specifically is around our ability to support the growing lithium business that is developing, that's already developing today, but will be an even bigger impact as we move forward. The natural resources and the oil and gas exploration companies and chemical companies that are here in El Dorado make a huge impact on us. Just Lanxess, for example, Deltic Refining, L&B Industries. Recently, there's ongoing projects with ExxonMobil, Standard Lithium, you name it. The future is very bright from an economic standpoint in El Dorado, and we're working to make sure that the workforce is ready to take advantage of those opportunities, so we're really excited about that. From a cultural perspective, we are very blessed in El Dorado to have a fantastic historic downtown. If you hadn't had a chance to go downtown, I think the chairman mentioned that you guys had maybe gone to lunch in some of our cafes, had an opportunity to walk around. We have over 10 nationally registered buildings in the Historical Preservation Society registry, just here in our downtown footprint. We have an award-winning Main Street El Dorado program, and just a block south of us, we have the Murphy Arts District, which is one of the best arts and entertainment districts in the entire country. It's home to a 75-seat 7,500-seat amphitheater, the largest playscape and splash pad in the state of Arkansas, which has a fantastic centerpiece of a huge Razorback hog, which I'm sure Coach Cal got to go and see yesterday when he was in town. That was amazing. If you didn't have a chance, the line to get in to see Coach Cal at the Murphy Arts District stretched about 3 blocks. So I was mentioning to Stephen, I think the honeymoon period is still on because we haven't played a game yet, but I'm sure it'll continue to do very well. Also mentioned earlier, El Dorado is proud to be the home of Mystic Creek Golf Club, one of the top golf courses that you can play in the entire world, the number 37 ranked golf course in the United States. We're home and we play host to the Epson Tour stop for the state of Arkansas. If you don't know, the Epson Tour is the developmental tour for the LPGA, where the best young lady professional golfers from across the world come to South Arkansas to challenge our fantastic course. And I think some of you had the opportunity to have dinner out at Mystic Creek last night. It is a fantastic, beautiful golf course that's nestled in the rolling hills of South Arkansas and surrounded by cathedral pines that I would argue are some of the most beautiful setting that you'd ever see. The golf course and the clubhouse are situated so that you can view the 18th green, the 18th fairway, the 10th tee, the ninth green, and the number 1 tee, all from the back of the restaurant. I invite you to come out anytime. We're open to the public, so you don't have to be a member to come out and play Mystic Creek. We also have 5 sets of golf tees, so if your game's a little short, if you haven't played for a while, we're very welcome to that. That's really what I had to talk about. As just a special note, want to make sure that we invite you back because 2 of Arkansas's native sons are going to be at the Murphy Arts District on August 31st. So Joe Nichols and Justin Moore are playing a concert in the amphitheater on August 31st. And we couldn't be happier to bring 2 of Arkansas's favorite sons back to South Arkansas to entertain us and have a good time. So I want to make sure, invite you to come back anytime. Love the fact that you're here. Appreciate you coming to South Arkansas. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Ron. All right, at this time, we're going to get into our meeting, and we had committee meetings yesterday, and we're going to go through the things that we need to go through today. I need approval of the agenda. Our first matter is approval for today. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Also need for the commission meeting notes for April the 11th. Are there any additions or deletions for these notes? Can I have a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. We have a presentation, a staff presentation this morning, and at this time, I'm going to call Ryan Farney. We'll present an update on the Feral Hog program. Luke Naylor.
And just a quick introduction, Ryan Farney, I came with you last year, so he's been with us for a few years now, 4 years now, after doing his master's in feral hog research in Oklahoma. So that's it for the bio. Just going to take a minute to brag on Ryan about his extensive efforts to deliver, I think they were to date maybe the most popular portion of the most implementation, I guess, within the conservation city program, CIP, was the feral hog trapping program. Ryan's played a pivotal role in making that happen.
I would say a key role in making that happen. So if you see success with SIP, Brian's been a big part of that, helping get that out to private landowners across the state. So Ryan's going to give us an update on Feral Hog Task Force work and where we stand.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Does the clicker work?
Ryan, are you interested in getting your PhD in this? If you are, come to Clover Bend. I've got 3 or 4 places. I'm sure El Dorado. We got lots of places in Arkansas that you can get your PhD.
I was asked about a PhD when I was finishing up my master's from the University of Georgia, and I just didn't have the fire anymore. So I said,
I'm talking about, I've got so many hogs where I live. If you'll just come to where I live. Yeah, you'll get all you need.
working means PhD.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Well, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Ryan Farney. I've been with the agency for about 4 years, like Luke was saying. And you'll notice my slide up here, it doesn't have just the AGFC logo on it. This is the Feral Hog Eradication Task Force. Not necessarily logo, but all of the logos of the agencies that represent the task force. And I come here representing Game and Fish, but I really want to be representing this task force because these are the agencies and the organizations across the state that have said that we're going to take a stand against the increasing populations of feral hogs in Arkansas. So I really want to represent this group well and just make you all aware that this organization does exist, and we're constantly trying to better ourselves to make sure that we help the landowners of Arkansas and the public lands of Arkansas the best we can. So. What I'm going to start with in this presentation is just some basic updates on what we've been doing as a task force and then specifically as the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. So as you can see, the task force, we have the most removals at the beginning of the year, and that's typically to do with the aerial culling events of the USDA Wildlife Services. They prominently hit private lands, and if you think about the percentage of lands in the state of Arkansas, that just makes sense. 90% of the state is privately owned, but they do work with us well in culling some of our management areas where we have the most dense populations. These flights are not cheap, and if you're not getting the most bang for your buck, then you're wasting money. And so we target several WMAs across the state, and that's why you see these large numbers at the beginning of the year. Things kind of level out up until about August, which is typically when we're going to see the most removals throughout the course of the year. And then as hunting season comes into play, things drop off a little bit. But for the most part, these numbers are pretty stable. This is primarily due to 2 things: hunting seasons and the natural resources on the environment. We have to play to those 2 factors a lot of the times, and that dictates how we operate on the landscape. And so, there's a little bit that we can do about that, but really when it comes down to it, we have to work within the factors that, we're dealt every single year. And so now I want to specifically look at the removals on the wildlife management areas over time, and you'll see that the trend line is, last year when I presented this data, the trend line was going up more significantly than it is currently. And I think I mentioned that the data in 2017 and 18 kind of skews this as opposed to what we normally see. But 2023, we actually removed more hogs than we did in 22, which you could say is a good and a bad thing, I guess. But our trend line is still going up. I believe that with more time and more years under our belt, we're hopefully going to see that trend line decrease. So we're staying pretty consistent. The removal data is the best data that we have. It's not a great metric for determining how successful we're being on our management areas over time, but right now it's the best that we have, and I hope to implement some plans in the near future that's going to help us better understand how we're doing in regard to reducing the density over time on our areas. The next thing I would like for you to see is what we're doing on private versus our public WMAs. In the past, USDA Wildlife Services played a much smaller role across the state than what they do today. And that meant that our regional staff across the state had to spend a lot more time on public lands. Private lands. We had to spend much more of our time on private lands, helping landowners that were calling that didn't have the means or the time to take care of issues themselves. Now USDA has a lot more staff than what they have in the past. They have a lot more funding. That means they have the ability to address a lot of those issues, free up our staff, spend more time on our management areas, either trapping or doing our habitat management like we're supposed to be doing. So kudos to USDA Wildlife Services for the help that they've given us and the task force overall. But what I'm saying is that you can tell that our private numbers are going down. In 2021, that was a pretty incredible spike. But as you can see, as the years go on, the amount of removals that our agency records on private land is decreasing, and I think that's a testament to the partnership that we have with USDA. And removals by month, this is going to look very similar to what I presented with the task force. This is on our management areas over time. From 2019 to 2023, again, we see an increase at the beginning of the year, and then another increase in July, August, and then it goes down pretty drastically with implementation of deer season and the resources. So hunting seasons and resources play a very large role in your ability to trap feral hogs, and that's primarily how we remove them on our WMAs. I like to highlight what we do with the aerial culling activities across the state every single year. The numbers on the left here are mislabeled for some reason. I don't know why I ended up like that, but McElroy, Madison County WMA is at the very top left. It is actually number 1 there. We removed 31 this year. It's interesting because we've never aerial culled McElroy, Madison before. This is the genesis of aerial culling that area. We were skeptical that we would have any success at all there because of the timber on that area. Turns out that we can still have a lot of success from the helicopter, even in areas where you have tall timber. They've had a lot of success using these methods in Missouri, in areas where they have tall timber, and we hope to implement this on some other areas across the state as well that we believed in the past it wouldn't be worth our time because it wouldn't be effective, but in reality, we think that it can now. And it's interesting because I've had conversations with Robert Byrd, who's the state director at APHIS, and he's very confident, and I hope that he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he's very confident that they're going to have a full-time helicopter stationed in Arkansas in Monticello moving forward. That means we're going to have a lot more time for aerial culling feral hogs, but not just that, there's other ways that we can implement that helicopter in the agency. So very, very excited about the potential of using these methods a lot more often than what we've had in the past. Big Lake is number 3. We've historically aerial culled that one every year. Frog Bayou is number 2. We had no success there this year. We didn't really expect to have a whole lot of success, but it's very close to Fort Chaffee military base, and they're hitting that spot anyways. And we just tried it, and it's in reality a good thing that we didn't see anything. U of A Pine Tree number 4. Historically, we've hit that spot. Interestingly enough, and I can speak to this again here in just a minute, but we've been using drones out on U of A Pine Tree quite often and had a lot of success finding hogs and trapping them on Pine Tree. And so between the drone use and then the helicopter use, we're seeing a lot less activity on that area than we have in the past. Biomeda, that's one that we've started hitting more often. In the past, we've not aerial culled that, but we believe that it's worth our time now. And as you can see, we removed 50 feral hogs from that, and then Trust and Holder. Normally we would hit more areas in the southwest part of the state, the southeast part of the state, but weather conditions are really preventative sometimes, and so that kept us from doing exactly what we wanted to do this year. But overall, a pretty successful year in my opinion. Like I was saying, with drones, we're still implementing UAVs across the state. Brendan Talbert, I have to give him a shout out. He is probably the most excited about drone use in the entire agency. And he has been using drones on Pine Tree pretty extensively. And what I was referring to a second ago is he found approximately 30 pigs with a drone a week or two before the helicopter got to the WMA. Within a week of finding those pigs with that drone, he was able to put a trap out and trap every single one of those pigs. And so we removed 30 pigs from that area before the helicopter got out, which meant that they had less feral hogs to deal with when they got there. And so in just standing at his truck, flying a drone around, we were able to remove 30 pigs off of that area. And so there's some issues with drones right now. We're hoping to adapt and figure out ways to move forward with drones, but I believe that they're a great technology that we continue to use in the right way. And then, as Luke was mentioning, this is the dashboard for the Conservation Incentive Program. I don't know if let me go back though. So as you can see here, we've got several hundred, I don't know if you can see it here, we've got several hundred people signed up for this program. We've allocated almost $1 million. I think it's by far and away the highest allocation so far of any practice. I have been involved in implementation of this, the development of it, and carrying it out, and assisting landowners with administrative work or technical work or whatever it may be. It's been a lot, but it's been good. And I think that the landowners of the state really appreciate the work that we're doing here. I love to help landowners better manage their property. And if this is a way to do it, I'm happy to help them. I hope that we are able to implement some of the research projects that we've talked about moving forward. We're really wanting to work with the University of Arkansas to better understand how the densities are changing on these private landowners' properties over time in response to them having their own trap. So far, we've ran into some roadblocks and not been able to start that project yet, but I'm hopeful that we can get it going before we lose too much time.
Hey, Ryan,
Yes, sir.
you can go back to that slide. So for those members of the audience that aren't as familiar with the Conservation Incentive Program, it was an effort by the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission that was led by Representative Jeff Wardlaw in the General Assembly that was basically an effort for us to think broadly about how we elevate the role of the private landowner in conservation in Arkansas. And so by fantastic partnership with the legislature, they gave us $3.5 million to set aside to pilot what I've been pretty transparent about. We hope to permanently codify in the next general session. And will you explain for them how we monitor these practices? Because I think that's what we're looking at here, right?
That's right.
If we're going to cost share with a private landowner to help them get a trap in their hands, how do we monitor that to make sure the agency, getting the impact that we want, and the taxpayer is getting the benefit of their taxpayer dollars?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer to that question is we've been really working with our GIS department to better understand how we can monitor this over the course of the program. The way that we did that is we implemented the use of an app called ArcGIS Quick Capture. Quick Capture gives us the ability to geotag any report submitted by any landowner that's actively trapping. What you see on the bottom left is an orange dot. That is the geotag location for where this trap picture took place. So what we have is we have photo evidence, one, of how many pigs that landowner actually trapped. So we don't have somebody saying, I trapped 20 and in reality they trapped 5. We can sit there and look at the photo and make sure that they actually are reporting correctly. We also have a location, so we know that that landowner is trapping on or off the property that they indicated they'd be trapping on when they signed up through their application. What you have in the middle is photo evidence of feral hog damage on that property before the landowner received their funding. So we made them verify to us that there was damage on the property or that they had feral hogs on the property. So we didn't want people to potentially get a trap that had no issues, that just intended to sell the trap later on. They get 75% off and they're going to make a buck off of it. We didn't want that to happen. So the implementation of ArcGIS Quick Capture was crucial to this program. And it's not just the feral hog practice that's implementing this app, it's every single practice almost that requires some type of documentation like that. Without that app, I don't know that we could have successfully run this program as well. It was my first experience with Quick Capture, but I've been very happy with it. And I think that if we continue to implement this program in the future and we want to record what's taking place throughout the practices, I think continuing to implement this app is going to be crucial in that.
Ryan,
Yes, sir.
that middle picture, for those who don't have a farm or don't have hogs involvement, that really does do justice to what, when you're out there with your actual eyes and you see. It just is not, when we plant corn, a cornfield, you just can't imagine to go out and look the next morning or a day later after nighttime. They'll do it at nighttime. Those hogs will get every seed of corn that you plant this deep in the ground. They go down that row. It's unbelievable at what, and you think you got 4, 5, 6, or 8 hogs. you come the next morning and look at your field, look like they've been 200 or 300.
Right.
200 or 300. That's how devastating these things can be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, and in Georgia, they do peanuts the same way. They'll go down these peanut rows and they'll ever seed of corn that you plant, they will pick it out.
Have you ever tried, don't mean to get off my talk too far, but have you ever tried to trap while that's taking place?
Caught 88 last year.
While you're seeding?
No, but I do have a trap, and I caught 88 in it last year.
I've worked with people that have tried to trap while that's taking place, and they put corn on the ground, but the hogs will still hit the seeds in the ground.
Yeah.
And they believe it's because of the coating on the seeds themselves that attracts the pigs. We could talk about that more if you'd like to. Okay, so here's some of the data that we have right now from the program. The amount awarded was overshot just a second ago. We're closer to $900,000 awarded currently. We have 220 approved applicants. I have overreported there because that is how many we've actually approved. But we have had to kick a few applicants out of the program. We have some that have not followed up on their responsibilities, and so that's overreported just a little bit. We have over 1,800 pigs here. As of 2 days ago, I think, we had broke the 2,000 mark. So I would say that is a success in itself right there. And that is underreported. So we have an overreported number of applicants that are approved and an underreported number of feral hogs removed. And I say underreported because I know personally of several cases where somebody has emailed me or called me and said, hey, I couldn't get quick capture to work. Here's a photo of the trap event. And we have to work with that landowner to figure out how we're going to move forward and get their removal event on quick capture, because the way that we've set this up is that they can't, predate that. So we have a 2-payment system for this program. First payment is when they send us their trap receipt. That's how they get their first payment. Second payment is when they submit their first removal on quick capture. So that's how we have it set up, and I believe that's why we've had such a good response rate on quick capture. But we do know that that 2,000 mark that we're at now is probably underreported by quite a bit. And then I would like to mention that every month we recognize the applicant that has the largest catch event, and then the applicant that removes the most that month. That's just a way for us to recognize those individuals each month that are really putting in the work. It's kind of like bragging rights at the end of the day is what it is. But we want people to continue to use this application so that we have the data that we need to verify if this program is worthwhile. And at the end of the day, I already believe that it is. So I mentioned a study with the University of Arkansas to determine the success of the practice. And what we've come up with, and this is basically me copying a program or a research project that the University of Auburn did in response to their federal money that they received a few years ago, is that what we want to do is identify a few properties that we've already identified these properties that have access to first and second order streams. That means that the streams are small. What we want to do is monitor the water in these streams, and more specifically monitor the feral hog DNA concentration in these streams over time. What we hope to see when we start this project is a decrease in feral hog DNA over time. That retroactively tells us that there are fewer feral hogs in the area. Does it specifically 100% tell you that there are no feral hogs on that property or surrounding properties? No, not necessarily, but it does give you a good idea of what's going on. Better than specifically just looking at removal numbers. Not that we're not looking at removal numbers, because we are. And then we're going to follow up at the end of the program with a survey. The University of Arkansas was the organization that was in charge of delivering the survey for the federal grant that we received a few years ago in regard to feral hog control, and we plan to work with them going forward and our own staff to deliver a survey at the end of this to get the better understanding of the perceptions of the landowners that are involved with this. Was it helpful? Did they like it? Was it easy to navigate? Did they feel like it was worth their time? So on and so forth. And then I'd like to finish up with some work that USDA is doing, and I feel like this is, kind of the meat and potatoes, in my opinion, of the talk. I was made aware of this information just a few weeks ago, and I would like to preface everything that I'm about to say here on this slide and the next two with I'm not a geneticist. I don't have a degree in genetics, and so there may be some questions that you have in regard to these slides that I can't answer. And so that's why John House is here today, He's not a geneticist either, but he has a lot more experience with this data than I do. I will do my best, John will do his best to answer any questions that you may have, but just know that I'm not a geneticist and I may not be able to answer some of those questions. But if you have a question that I can't answer, we will find the person that can. So anyways, what USDA has been doing over the past few years is collecting genetic data from feral hogs that they trap over time on both public and private areas. They send these samples back to a lab in Fort Collins, Colorado, where they run the genetic data and they put it into a database. What they've been able to find is that there are 6 distinct feral hog populations in Arkansas currently that we know of with the sampling that we've done. The geographic distribution of these populations varies over time. And do I have a pointer? I do. Okay, so we've got a population in north central Arkansas, we've got a population in eastern Arkansas, southern Arkansas. You can see these white dots are more located along the Mississippi River. What I would like to draw your attention to, which is one of the most interesting data points in this map, is this population right here. This color, I know it's hard to see to a degree, but this population right here is a distinct population. I think it's population 5. This population geographic footprint is minute compared to any other across the state, and that is because they are only located on Fort Chaffee. There are no other pigs that fit the profile of that population located anywhere in the state. And you may ask yourself, well, why is that significant, or why am I specifically talking about that? And if you think about the access to Fort Chaffee that you may or may not have, and the ability to move or not move pigs off of that area, it makes sense that that population is found nowhere else because they can't be moved. We've not detected that population of feral hogs anywhere else. So that, in my mind, tells me that these other populations across the state are potentially being moved around. I can't verify that yet, but there is work taking place right now to better understand that, and that's actually what I have on my next slide. Any questions about that? So the next thing that I would like to reference is the idea of classifying a pig as a resident or as translocated. This was very interesting, I thought. A large percentage of the animals that were tested by USDA came back as translocated. When we look at the statewide classification, we're looking at approximately 40% of what USDA has sampled over the past few years have come back as what they consider to be translocated. Now, what defines translocated? Time and space are the metrics that they use to identify translocated. Space is a feral hog that was trapped approximately 200 kilometers from where that population should be, where it should be. If a feral hog was over 200 kilometers from where the population is established, they consider that to be translocated. The next thing you have to consider is time. I asked the question, okay, a pig is moved to an area where it's not supposed to be. For how long can you detect whether or not those genetics are different from the population where it was introduced? The answer that I got back was approximately 3 generations. Now, if you know much about feral hog biology, you know that feral hogs have approximately 2 sounders or 2 offspring or 2 litters a year. And, you know, in a really good year, it is physically possible to have 3. So at most, you're talking about 3 years after a pig is introduced into an area, you would be able to detect whether or not that pig was translocated or not. So at max, we got 3 years to identify if that pig was translocated or not, and still they're receiving about 40% translocated rate across the state. I feel like that is, pretty alarming to know that approximately 40% of the work that USDA is doing right now is potentially fabricated by pigs being moved around. So,
Hey, Ryan?
Yes, sir.
It's kind of hard to believe that people would do that. But how many actually get caught? Are there tickets given? Are there people that are caught doing that?
Not to my knowledge of right now, no.
I mean, where I live, I just can't imagine someone catching hogs and taking them to another area and turning them loose.
Yeah, so I don't have the data on my presentation, but the geneticist at Fort Collins actually produced a heat map of where these pigs came from, because they're not just doing this work in Arkansas, they're doing it across the nation. And a large percentage of the pigs are coming back as being from Texas. So that's, some of the movement is from within state, but a lot of the pigs that they're detecting that are not from Arkansas are showing up from Texas. And if you think about what's going on in Texas right now, Texas has buy stations. Somebody can trap pigs in Texas, try to make a buck off of them by selling them at a buy station. Somebody goes down there and buy them. If you look at the heat map, which I would like to have included today, but I didn't, East Texas, West Texas, Northwest Texas looks like it's on fire because that's where all of them apparently are coming from. So like I said, I am just now being informed about this information. I wanted to make, this is my annual report. I wanted to bring it up so everybody is aware of what's going on. And if I can go forward, so that was for the entire state. That's what they've trapped if you looked at everything. Now, if we drill down, because the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission is supposed to be focused on our management areas, we look at, on private land, on public lands. Now, let me clarify that these data right here are from all kinds of public lands, not just game and fish. This is Forest Service, Game and Fish, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, everything. But when they drilled down and they looked at the pigs that were trapped on just public lands, it came back that 60% of those that they trapped were translocated. So, how do we prevent this? I currently don't have a great response to that question. And I'll just be completely honest with you. I don't know. But we've got to do something about it. If you're telling me that 60% of the work that we're doing is being fabricated, I think that is pretty monumental, to be honest. So, I think that what we need to do is, and my suggestion is, specifically look at the Arkansas Game and Fish managed lands. Is it this bad really on Game and Fish WMA? I don't know. I don't have a great response to that question either because we've not been doing the genetic work specifically on Game and Fish lands. I would like to continue this genetic work. I've already talked with Robert Byrd about this. He is completely open to the idea of us sending in samples and getting them processed to get a better understanding if, in fact, actually 60% of the pigs that are on our management areas right now shouldn't, in reality, by natural ways be there. So that's something that I want to continue working on in this next year, and hopefully when I do this presentation next year, I'll have some better data for you in regard to that. And then finally, some other work that I would like to continue to expand upon is some density work. So the genetic work is one aspect of what we'd like to do, but also we want to better understand how population densities are changing over time on our management areas in regard to the management practices that we're currently implementing. Every other program, every other species as a game animal that we manage currently right now, there is some type of monitoring effort taking place. Right now for feral hogs, our monitoring tool is removal data. How many pigs are we removing over time? That is a very poor tool for measuring the success of a particular program. What I want to do is continue to work with the lab out of Fort Collins, not just the genetic work, but also density work. They have the capability to do both. If we do a cost for services, we can send data that we're already collecting to this lab to better understand density. And so that will allow us to estimate abundance of feral hogs on WMAs. It'll estimate what percentage of the feral hog population is currently being removed each month. And we can model future population trends on removal data to better inform future management decisions. I think Commissioner Tappan said it one time, if you don't measure it, you can't manage it.
Thank you for remembering that.
Yeah, and that's the way I feel about this. With removal data alone, which is what we're currently collecting, I can't answer any of these questions. And finally, I want to equip our staff. I want to equip our regional staff with the tools and the information that they need to better manage our WMAs. So that's pretty much everything that I have. I'll answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Anybody have any questions?
I do. Brian, I actually had written down a comment to compliment you on the measures, your baselines, and also your movement and activity going forward. So thank you. That's wonderful. Can you give us an update on the LSU experimental eradication packet, where that stands, what your personal opinions of it are?
So I don't believe I can really give you any better update than what we received a few months ago at the commission meeting. in regard to that. LSU has received their patent. They have a product that they feel like will work, but they've not tested it in the field. They've not tested it around black bears, around vultures, around passerine birds, or anything like that. Until they get in the field, which is going to require several hundreds of thousands of dollars, apparently, until they get in the field, we won't know if it's an effective tool or not. We thought that the toxicant that USDA was working on for the past several years would be, the ticket to some type of toxicant, but they kept running into issues with passerine birds. And so until they can get in the field and start doing their field trials, we really don't know. I'm hopeful that it will turn into something that will really help us. I think it'll be another tool. I don't think it's going to be a silver bullet. I think it'll be a tool.
Austin, didn't you, I remember in that meeting, you volunteered, hey, we'll be glad to do a field trial here.
Please come to Arkansas.
Please come to Arkansas.
The promising thing about that is it was sodium chlorate, which is salt, and salt affects a hog's digestive system, which it doesn't affect other animals. So we have great hope that this is going to work.
Sure.
All these hogs have been moved around. Did y'all ever catch anybody doing that?
That might be for Colonel back there to answer that.
Yeah, we have caught some doing that. It's not our primary mission goal, if you will, but we have caught some.
The issues around moving hogs is that if you were to catch somebody hauling a trailer load of hogs down the road, what do you do with those in the meantime if you were to issue that person a citation? It may be a long shot, but what I hope that we can do one day, and this is just me, thinking about things in my office, is that we could develop a way to collect a genetic sample from some of those individuals on that trailer to figure out if they were genetically from a population, somewhere else. And that would be just another piece of evidence that we could use in something like that. But it's currently the way the laws are wrote, it is a headache to take care of those animals in the meantime while court proceedings are taking place. So it is a hurdle that the task force has to try to overcome for sure.
Ryan, thank you very much.
Well, I got your question. And Brad, this might be something that you, I think there was an email from the task force, y'all got some input here in recent days and weeks about hunters on our WMAs being able to take a hog during the season of whatever it would be. In the past, we had nobody can shoot a hog.
So our regulations that have been in place for several years on WMAs, we recognize that there were movement of hogs taking place on WMAs, and so we tried to restrict just wide open hog hunting at WMAs because it was making the problem worse instead of better. And so the restrictions that have been in place for several years was allowing only incidental take during a firearm big game season in November and December.
End of October to the end of December.
And it was only on WMAs where we had known hog populations. So we had some WMAs where there were no hogs, and so we said you couldn't even incidentally take one there. The proposal that's in the packet, recognizing that we've added new WMAs, we have areas where situations have changed, but there are hogs present now, recognizing that we have 140 plus WMAs across the state. Many of them Arkansas Game and Fish does not own. We own about 50 WMAs, so there's over 90 that we do not own. And so trapping is not occurring on all of those areas. And we have those where there are hogs present, but the public is not able to even take one opportunistically during that big game season. So the proposal was to allow opportunistic take during an open big game season only with weapons allowed for that season on all WMAs. So if it's archery season and a hunter encounters a hog, he would be able to incidentally shoot that hog only with archery equipment during archery season. So that was the proposal that's in the packet.
I think it's a good proposal.
It's not opening up broadly for hog hunting on WMAs, because we know that that's an issue and a correct concern about making a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks.
Next, we have Director Austin Booth's report. It's all yours, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to everybody. It's been a fantastic week in El Dorado. We've had a very warm welcome. Y'all have a beautiful town, and this is definitely going to be one of our many commission meetings that we particularly remember. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to go to Morrow Big Pine Wildlife Management Area. It's an outstanding project for lots and lots of reasons, and we know that this part of Arkansas is just as proud of it as we are.
I'm good, thank you.
And we can learn from Morrow Big Pine lots of things, one of which is the importance of partnerships in conservation. When I had the opportunity to go to other states, believe it or not, people say, how in the world can we make my state like Arkansas? And one of the things that we brag about, not at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission, but as Arkansans, is the number of conservation partnerships that we have. And Morrow Big Pine is a perfect example of what happens when you have a deep-seated appreciation for partnerships and for our natural resources. Morrow Big Pine is a story, amongst other things, of a shared vision of generosity and conservation when PotlatchDeltic donated, or put in conservation easement rather, 16,000 acres. And that's not only now the only public hunting opportunity in Calhoun County, but it's also one of the places in the United States where the red cockaded woodpecker, an endangered species, is not only surviving, but thriving. However, there were two aspects of our tour yesterday at Morrow Big Pine that really struck home with me about the parallels that we saw at Morrow Big Pine with our overall broad mission at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission and in Arkansas for conservation. The first was a particular stand of pine savanna that these red cockaded woodpeckers absolutely love. And Commissioner Neely asked the question, being the forestry wizard that he is, basically, what was the timing of some of the forest management that went into that particular stand and also to the application of fire. And if you look at a timeline of when the major inputs were, again, forest management and fire, it spanned roughly 6 years. I think it was in between 2009 and 2015. And what struck me about that was that Potlatch and Game and Fish, we had a vision for what we wanted that stand to look like, and we had the focus and the discipline to do it once and then never lose sight of that vision and come back to it 6 years later. The second aspect of yesterday's tour was that I learned that when a red cockaded woodpecker seeks to make a home inside of a cavity tree, it can take it as much as 9 years for that woodpecker to make a home in that tree. And that red cockaded woodpecker is not just doing it by himself or herself, right? They have these breeding groups, these families, these multi-generational groups of woodpeckers that for 9 years are seeking to make a home in that tree. What does that have to do with the mission of conservation in Arkansas? Well, for whatever reason, be it by nature or by influence, we as people want what we want when we want it. we are often most instantly gratified by what's immediately in front of us. But we know that this is antithetical to not only the mission of conservation, but to our human experience. The reality is that just like the red-cockaded woodpecker, the success and impact that we desire, more often than not, we string together through days and weeks and months and years and oftentimes even generations. This is something that is at the very heart of our strategic plan, Natural State Tomorrow. As many of you have heard me say many times, the important and pressing work of conservation depends on us connecting effort with success and us doing it over the time span of years. The work of this agency, even the work that we've covered this week, highlights how hard this agency is working to serve Arkansans now so that we can also do it for Arkansans in the future. This meeting in El Dorado is an example of that. We set out to do meetings quarterly on the road so that we can demonstrate transparency and accountability to the constituents that we serve, and so that we can also be transparent with them that we always try to love their communities as much as they do. After 3 years, we've been to Monticello, Magnolia, we've been to Jonesboro twice, we've been to Rogers, we've been to Mountain Home, Texarkana, Mount Magazine, Ponca, Fort Smith, and now El Dorado. We can also see a passionate commitment to patient and incremental work towards conservation in our enforcement class that we just sat. I believe when I began this job 3 years ago, we had roughly 25 vacancies, and I'm proud to say that we're at 10 cadets this morning, and we hope to graduate all 10 to reduce those vacancies down to single digits. We're about to round out one of our biennial reg cycles, where we incrementally try to elevate the needs of the natural resources when we have to, and at every opportunity, increase opportunity to the public. We can look at the work of our private lands division to not only maintain their traditional mission set of helping private landowners write and implement management plans, but also tackling new programs like the Conservation Incentive Program. We can look at the fact that we're about to renovate another lake this summer, Lake Wilhelmina, while we're also rounding out our renovation at Lake Monticello, where we were happy to stock last week the first ever Titan Max bass, the most genetically superior and advanced largemouth bass anywhere in the country. We can look at the efforts that we're going to codify in regulations, hopefully today, to modernize our federal duck stamp, to bring a wonderful tradition within the waterfowl community up to 2024 practices by no longer requiring hunters to have a signed physical duck stamp in their possession within a 45-day window. We can look at our recreational shooting division, right? We're in our 4th week of regional tournaments there, where thousands of young Arkansans come to shoot competitively, and the fact that we have our first 3D archery tournaments going on in many schools throughout Arkansas. And lastly, yesterday we received a wonderful presentation from our new Chief of Education, Mary Beth Hatch, who unveiled for us the first ever conservation leadership program aimed at our schools. So we can not just focus on educating and making the next generation of outdoorsmen, but we can try to recruit and build advocates and teachers and administrators throughout Arkansas. To be clear, there are always, and there will always be moments where there are decisive action, and decisive action is necessary. But more often than not, these moments of decisive action are the products, not of circumstance, but they're the products of months and sometimes years worth of dedicated and focused effort. History, even our own, should always illuminate our path in the forward when it's dark. And the long, enduring nature of conservation should sober us that the importance of focus and discipline is always upon us. But even our own history at the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission should give us much hope about the future, even when we meet challenges. And because conservation, as y'all have heard me say many times, because conservation is only as good as the people that are willing to put their hand to the yoke, this importance and our history should weigh heavily upon us, that conservation is about more than one community. It's about more than one person, and it's even about more than one generation. And that importance, as we face challenges, should drive us not to fear, not to work less, but to work more, because we are standing on the shoulders of those that came before us as we try to make the natural state even more natural, and those in the future will stand on our shoulders. Thank you all again for a wonderful time in El Dorado, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Just one little comment about Director Booth. You know, when you was talking about the woodpecker, and 9 years, just 9 years for them to work is a long time for them to be able to have babies and get that cavity. And sometimes you say, well, maybe we need to go out there and get a bunch of and help them a little bit. That's a long time to work, but it made me remind this past month, 5 weeks. You guys know what a killdee is. And little birds, that when you get close to them, they'll act like they're hurt and they throw their wings out. So in my driveway, there's been this old mama killdee, and she's had 4 eggs. Every day when I back out, I look at her, and she's there. And I'll stay over on the other side, but she's there, and she sits on that, and she's got to keep those eggs at a certain temperature. I mean, that heat, she's incubating those eggs. And I've watched her and watched her and watched her, and she's kind of got to where she knows me. I'll roll down my window, and I'll even talk to her as I go by. Now, these are these simple things, just like the 9 years that it takes. Well, these are these little simple things, and somehow or another, when God made all of this, He made it right. He didn't mess up. He didn't mess up. But anyway, I'm thinking, I probably just need to get those eggs. Those are bad eggs. They're not going to hatch. It's taken too long. They're not going to hatch. And that poor old mama is just having, and it's rained, the wind's blowed. I mean, she's went through some bad days with those eggs, but boy, she's there all the time. And then, she won't even fly. I really believe she knows my face when I pass by and I talk to her. So anyway, Tuesday, before I left and come down here, they hatched. She had 4 little babies, and those little old things are just running around. And, it relieved me that she didn't sit all them days and nights for nothing. So but the simple thing about the woodpecker, and, you think, well, all of this is not important, but it is important. It's our way of life. It's how God made things, and I love those little things like that.
Have you named them yet, Steve?
I was just thinking, I could catch them. They were just right there. They're little. She'll be back again next year. And I've got this old 2 or 3 eagle nests where I live, and this mama eagle has little babies every year. I watch them, and I get great enjoyment out of that. All right, we're going to get into our committee meeting reports and moving right along. We don't have too much longer, and we'll be done with this. Commissioner Anne Marie DeRamus, Chair of Regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Regulations Committee met yesterday. We had 2 discussion items. Jacob Morton presented on the Ouachita River Catfish Sampling Projects, which was very, very interesting to see those big catfish coming out of this river. And then Maxwell Hartman gave a presentation on crayfish diversity in Arkansas. We had 2 action items. The commission voted unanimously to table a regulation proposal to reduce the hen mallard daily bag limit from 2 to 1. And then Luke Naylor and Tommy Laird presented the final regulations package as amended for adoption. New business, the staff presented a first reading of a regulation proposal that clarifies both adult and youth non-resident turkey hunters will be restricted to a bag limit of 1 turkey starting with the 2025 spring turkey season. There was no old business, and we adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Anne Marie. Next is Commissioner Rob Finley, Chair of the Property Management.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Property Management Committee met yesterday. We had no discussion items. We had 3 action items. Ms. Emily Shoemate requested the removal of a stolen carport from the inventory. The item was previously valued at $966 and had a current net book value of 0. The item received unanimous due pass. Colonel Brad Young requested the inventory removal and award and sale of service weapons to the retiring game warden Sergeant John Chrisman. That item also received unanimous due pass. And Kevin Mullen requested approval for the Gulf Mountain Potlatch acquisition of 320 acres at a purchase price of $688,000 with a $10,000 allowance for closing costs. That item also received unanimous due pass. There was no new business, no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Finley. Commissioner Bill Jones, Chair of Education, IT, GIS, Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Education Communications Committee met yesterday. We had two discussion items. One, Mary Beth Hatch presented a summary about the new education recognition program designed for schools across Arkansas. By the way, we're thrilled to have her in that position. She did a fantastic job and really, really enjoyed that. The second one was Kyle Curry and staff from Licensed Vendor Payit presented an update to the Commission on a licensing platform. So it sounds like that's doing a little better. We had one action item. Leah Hughes requested approval for updates to the Arkansas Game and Fish volunteer policy. The item received a unanimous new pass. We had no new business and we had no old business, and we were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Jones. Next, Commissioner Neely, Chair of Budget Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had one discussion item. Emily Shumate presented us our agency financial status report, and we had no action items, no new business. We were adjourned.
Thank you, Commissioner Neely. Commissioner Tappan, Chair, Personnel Governance.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Personnel Governance Committee had one discussion item. John Marks reported our legal report instead of our retired Jim Goodhart. There were no action items, no new business, no old business. We did hold an executive session and returned to normal session with no action taken.
Thank you, Commissioner Tappan. Now for the business that was brought before the commission. Item 6A is the regulation approval. Deputy Director Brad Carner, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today is the culmination of what has been a 10-month-long process for our biennial regulations cycle. That began last August with internal discussions and interactions and work by staff in both wildlife and fisheries and research divisions, and conversations with our conservation partners around the state. Our staff have been before you every month since January, presenting at that time what were preliminary topics. Formal proposals were made in February. We had a regulations public input survey that went live to the public in mid-March, and as we've previously presented, that resulted in over 36,000 responses from the public, including over 107,000 written comments on our regulations proposal. So to say this has been an extensive, very detailed process is quite the understatement. So I'm here today. We have merged both the fisheries proposals and the wildlife and hunting proposals into one packet for your final adoption. That includes over 150 proposed changes to the regulations. And again, this is a biennial packet, so it covers the next 2 years. Generally speaking, the fisheries proposals will go into effect January the 1st of 2025, with the exception of 3 proposals for 3 individual lakes, Lake Conway, Wilhelmina, and Pickthorn, which will go into effect June the 1st of this year. For the hunting proposals, those will all go into effect July 1st of 2024. I want to draw your attention to a couple items as discussed yesterday. As Commissioner Doremus mentioned in the Regulations Committee, Commission took action to table the one-hen mallard proposal, so that has been corrected in the red line version, so that has been withdrawn from the packet. So it defaults to a 4-hen or a 4 mallard limit, no more than 2 hens. So wanted to make that clarification. And also there was clarifying language added to the straight wall ammo alternative firearm season, clarifying that that is for center fire rifle cartridges, and shotguns with slugs are not allowed during that. So we made that clarification to the packet as well. So with that, I'm here seeking commission action on that entire regulation packet as a whole. I'm happy to address any questions you might have, but seeking your approval of that packet this morning.
Are there any questions? This item requires the approval from Regulations Committee. Commissioner Doremus was disapproved of the Regulations Committee.
It received unanimous do pass.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have inventory removal, award, sale of service weapon to Sergeant John Chrisman, Colonel Brad Young. You have the floor.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director. Come before you this morning for the removal and sale, award and sale for Sergeant John Chrisman after 25 years is retiring. Appreciate a good vote.
This item requires the approval of property management. Commissioner Finley, was this approved?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it was.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, removal of inventory items, Chief Financial Officer Emily Shoemaker.
Good morning. For your consideration this morning, I have a minute order for the removal of a stolen item. Original value of $966.60, current value of $0.
This item requires approval from Property Management. Commissioner Finley, was this approved?
Yes, sir, it was.
Have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Item 6D, Volunteer Policy Update, Chief of Education, Mary Beth Hatch.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Director. I have a minute order for your consideration. In your backup, you have an amendment to the personnel policy to make updates to our volunteer procedures and policies. Your approval would be appreciated.
This item also requires approval from Property Management. Commissioner Bill Jones, was this approved in the Education Committee?
Yes, it received a unanimous do pass.
I have a motion to approve the request. No seconds necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 6E, Guff Mountain Potlatch Acquisition, Real Estate Officer Kevin Mullen. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, Director. We have a minute order for your consideration that would authorize the Director and staff to move forward with the real estate process to acquire 320 acres from Potlatch Delta Timber adjacent to Gulf Mountain WMA. It does authorize $688,000 for the acquisition costs and $10,000 for real estate fees and due diligence, and that's all from existing agency budget.
This item requires approval from Property Management. Commissioner Finley, was this approved in Property Management Committee?
Yes, sir, with unanimous do pass.
I have a motion to approve the request. No second is necessary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 6F is the first reading of non-resident youth total restrictions. Luke Nagle.
Good morning. As Commissioner Doremus said, this is the first reading of a clarification that the one turkey bag limit per season for non-residents will apply to both adults and youth. So that was not included in the packet that Brad just brought forward and you approved. So this is the first reading, no action necessary. We'll be back to you next month asking for approval of that regulation proposal. Any questions, I'll answer.
Thank you, Luke. All right, guys, is there any new business we need to discuss? Any old business? Commissioner Tappan, any executive session?
No, Mr. Chairman, there is no need for executive session.
Okay. All right, before we close the meeting, and we're about to always give commissioners a chance to say a little bit just before we leave. Be a month before we're back here again. And let's start down on the far end. Commissioner Michelle Evans-White.
Thank you,
We'll start
Chairman.
with you.
Thank you. Just wanted to say thank you to everybody in the community for welcoming us. Everybody's so nice. They all seem so happy, and now I know it's because they're communing with God's country down here. Really enjoyed the Feral Hog Program update and the discussion that went along with that. And just wanted to make one little note in that. I believe the folks from Louisiana are, one of the salts they're thinking about, and Mr. Barney, you correct me if I'm wrong, is a nitrite or a nitrate salt, which is nitrate and nitrite are all around us. More nitrate, which has more oxygens. But if you ingest enough of it, it can competitively bind with hemoglobin, your hemoglobin, so you don't get enough oxygen. And I would make an educated guess that that's how the hogs die. So those field trials are warranted. Just wanted to make that note.
Thank you. Commissioner Brandon Adams.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I'm lucky enough to have a couple of businesses here, so I wasn't surprised by El Dorado. I'm here quite often, so I knew where we were headed and how surprised you guys would be when you got here. But one of the things that, just finishing my first year, that I've learned on here is that most of the decisions that we make half the people happy and half the people mad. So, but the one thing I'd like to talk about from yesterday is Mary Beth's program that she's put together and how impressive that is, and how it's nice to be able to sit up here as a commissioner and know that no one's going to have a problem with that, and really excited to see that move forward, and really nice job yesterday. So thank you.
Commissioner Bill Jones.
Well, first of all, that's my committee that came from, so I was going to
That's the reason.
Now, we're talking about South Arkansas. I'm a South Arkansas boy, too. I'm just a little farther east from here, towards Gillette, with that area over there. But we love South Arkansas, and there's so many secrets and so many wonderful things down here that I was so impressed with El Dorado. I do want to tip my hat to the legislators that came today, and thank you all for helping us get this cleaned up. I know we all want that path to happen, but you all have a very special place, and it's like my grandfather always said too, South Arkansas is God's country, so we're glad to be here.
Commissioner Tappan.
Chairman Jones, a lot of thanks already given out to El Dorado, but I also am appreciative of all the community's done. You know, one of the things struck me, all we've heard, the abundance of God's bounty all around us, but is the industriousness, the industry drive of this community and its people. You know, just such a productive community, and it's a pleasure to see that all around us. I also thank our legislative body for being here. And finally, I wish there were more staff in the room to give a report, and Representative Andrews may appreciate this also. You know, part of our duty as commissioners is not just these formal meetings, but it's experiencing the resources, the implementation, and the work of the commission out in the field. Yeah, we only have one employee, and that is our director, but we love to measure and see the productivity of all the agency and give him reports, bad and good. I have a good report in that myself and 4 brothers did a turkey hunt in Newton and Searcy County on the June Rush WMA this last month. Didn't require permitting, so we didn't bump any other hunters out of the woods. I took my game and fish tag off and replaced my state standard license so that I would get no special treatment, no special review. It was the most wonderful experience. 3 days in the woods, heard turkeys, most beautiful, well-maintained. I literally, over 3 days, did not see a piece of litter on our WMA. The gates were all well-maintained, well-marked. Over 20% of our access points there are handicap accessible. The food plots in some of the most remote ridges, all the way a mile away from Alocta Gate, which the road maintained all the way, are the most gorgeous maintained food plots full of pollinators. And then the staff that I did encounter, which the game warden recognized who I was after talking to him for 15 or 20 minutes, were excellent and helpful and beneficial. It's just so good to see that work of this commission being carried out so successfully in the field, and some of our resources just so well maintained. Thank you, all of you involved in that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Finley?
Was that after you put your bag of corn down?
You never said how that went.
You talk to him, Brad, later? Yeah. No, Chairman Jones, I echo all the great warm welcome we've received here. One of the warmest welcomes we've received as a commission. And with that said, excited about what's going on with Bill Jones's recognized education program. Appreciate all he's doing there to help train Ms. Hatch up, and what we're going to do at Mountain Home in the coming days. But just after I want to give kudos to our legislative body. That was a challenge last week, but when you go back almost 4 years now to where we've come in the last 3.5 years, and our partnership working together, and the advancement and the things we've been able to accomplish, there's a lot to be said for that. And it's not on either side, it's both sides. And as we work lockstep to better the resource of Arkansas with each other's help, and to continue to build trust, which is important, and you allowing us to gain that trust is important. We look forward to continuing with both the special session and next year's legislative session, and continuing to build this partnership together. But again, thank you. I know we know how things go and understand, and as Adam said, it's you don't always make them all happy, but we certainly are doing it for the right reasons. But again, thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Finley. Commissioner Anne Marie Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity, and I echo what Commissioner Finley said, and thank you all for coming to our meeting today. It's greatly, greatly appreciated, and it's been wonderful being in South Arkansas. I have 3 things. The Arkansas Game and Fish Foundation hosted the annual Commissioner's Cup last weekend. We had 74 high school fishing teams participate, which is absolutely amazing. Those anglers have a very bright future ahead of them, and a lot of great places to fish in Arkansas thanks to our wonderful folks. Second, I want to thank Luke and Tommy and all of our staff. I had the opportunity this fiscal year to chair the Regulations Committee, and you all have made it a really, really great experience. I would be remiss if I did not mention Alva Smith and Jessica Feltz, our social scientist, who did a wonderful job collecting public input, our largest collection ever. So very, very proud of the work they do. And then, Mr. Chairman, I am so sorry, but in old business, I forgot to bring something up. I don't know if you all knew, but this Saturday, 58 years on this earth, Mr. Rob Finley.
Hey, the Lord's still got a couple of days to fix that.
That is old business.
That is old business.
I know. Well, I appreciate that.
So you all be sure to text Rob on Saturday a happy 58th birthday.
Thank you.
So, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Neely.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, y'all see why my head's always swollen pridefully to be from South Arkansas. It is a great place to live in a community, and I think a lot of the words all said today reflect pride in this area. Thank you all again, representatives, and for being here today and helping support the commission, and thank y'all for all you do for us as Arkansans in the House in your time of service. A big shout out to Laura Rogers back here. Laura, we didn't get to really recognize you. A true treasure. Laura just retired. Mary Beth, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to get to work with really one of the best educators in all the agency. We miss her. She served us down here in the South Arkansas area for How long, Laura?
23.
23 years. Let's give it Laura a hand. She was a true treasure in all the schools, never missed a thing. So, Laura, again, we wish you the best in retirement and thank you again for your service. Then, Mr. Chairman, I think we owe you, this is your last roadshow, as we call them. You have chosen wisely some very wonderful places for us to go visit. You set up wonderful meals and some great entertainment. So we thank you and give you a hand.
Director Booth.
Yes, sir. So some of y'all may know this, but we're in the process now of deploying ARUs. Did I get that right, Brad? All right. Don't ask me what they stand for, but they're basically recording devices throughout Arkansas, and it's aimed at turkeys, right? We want to be able to listen to turkey gobbling activity from North Arkansas to South Arkansas to see whether there is any enough of a disparity to justify potentially two separate zones in a reg cycle in the future. However, I have asked our wildlife management division to place one of these ARUs next to this killdee nest, because we are very interested in what you're talking to this killdee about.
I know. Well, listen, in closing for this meeting, I also want to just echo what everybody said about El Dorado. It's my first time here. Super impressed. The mayor, the CEO of the chamber, all the speakers that spoke today. Thank you for your. We benefit from hearing what everybody has to say, so we love that. You know, when you talk about simple things, sometimes some simple things in life, you know, they help us make better decisions. They do. And a lot of things that God, nearly everything God put together, we don't need to come along and mess it up. So I'm really glad I didn't bother those eggs for that poor mother killdee. And I'm happy that Anne Marie's back. You know, she's kind of been nesting for 9 months. And so I'm glad that she's back and makes us complete here and that. And so with that, I will adjourn this meeting.